of the universe, Mother Nature sighs. Ooh, come save your child. Come save your child. I say, come sisters, come and take back your child. This great.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Auntie Agatha, niece Agatha.
I am back.
I know. Hello, and welcome to everybody. It's Thursday. This is GeesBeeCee Women with Words. It's good to be here. My name is Glendy Jean Jr.
and I'm Agatha Joseph. Happy Friday Eve.
Happy Friday Eve to all of you. Please,
Yeah.
You don't want to miss this show. Of course, we're back. Enter Beauty is not here today.
Yes.
We want to recognize that this weekend is going to be really solemn for them. They lost a very close sister. We'll be having her funeral this weekend. And it's going to be really tough. A young woman with 5 children and a husband just suddenly passed. And it's so our hearts go out to all of her friends and her families. Eva was connected to a group that they had, sisters group that they had, and it's going to be really tough for them this weekend. I see grief is not easy.
No.
And losing a loved one is so hard. And sometimes people that tuck it away and don't want to remember it, but it's something that we all have to experience. So our hearts go out to Eva and the rest of the family
and all of them.
Eva, Marjorie, Marty, all of them, and even Erica was a fun-loving young woman. She was a regular on the GeesBeeCee platform.
Yeah,
we were close. It is such a sudden loss that you can't even understand or you can recuperate from. But we pray that her young children, that God will comfort all of them.
Yep.
And of course, we have BA is here.
I'm back.
She's back. The woman has been running. Oh my goodness, the woman got energy.
Listen, be mature because I ain't old. It is not for the faint of heart. I shared my story, how I contracted COVID. And let me be the first one to say I was raw dogging it all over this world, and I was complicit. And I share my story so you all know that COVID is still real and you need to protect yourself, especially if you're in close quarters and airplane, buses, things like that. Wear your mask. Listen, you don't want to be me. I was struggling. I couldn't come down the stairs. My breathing was labored. I really had it bad. So, I encourage all of you out there to not be complicit. Don't be like me.
Yeah. Wear your mask when you have to. I know yesterday we were talking at work because where I work, the CDC, they're lifting everything on wearing masks. They're not even really requiring the vaccinations and stuff. I think for healthcare workers, there's just so many things that they've lifted, but it's like Akata is saying, don't let your guard down. You need to make sure that you're constantly taking the precautions that you have. I'll tell you, when I went this weekend to my son's game,
I saw you.
I'm telling you, the rain. Agatha, first of all, we go to the place, and I don't mean to talk about it, but my son is a track star, and I feel very celebrity-ish.
I'm sorry, what is the word? Nagu English?
Celebrity-ish.
And Nagu English?
Nagu English, man. Listen, my son, he doesn't really ask for a lot. So, of course, he's been a track star for maybe 3 years. He's a junior now in college. And for the last 2 years, he's taking the first place in the 100 meter and the 200 meters. Yeah, so shout out to Jabez if he does watch the show. Sometimes he does, sometimes he
The
doesn't.
village is very proud of you, son.
So proud. But when he was like, he kept saying, but the meet was Monday and Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't think I would be able to take off from work.
Right.
So he didn't
right.
want to ask. He didn't want to say, Mom,
Yeah,
can you come? He was just like, Mom, I understand. I really hope you can come. But, you know, I know it's Monday and Tuesday. So I don't, you know, if you can't come, I understand because you've come to other matches before. So it's okay. I was like, oh, Lord. Then his sister decided, well, since Mom can't come, I will come.
Oh,
No, he's not going to ask.
right.
To say, I really want you to be there. But he kept saying, yeah, Mom. Every time we tell Mom, I know you can't come. It's okay. Okay, so I go on this guilt trip. I said, you know, I'm gonna go. So I told my boss, I said, I know we're in survey window,
Right.
but I really want to go and watch my son run. And you know, he was like, what? Your son run? I said, yeah. And then I was telling you, you know, my son is a track star and he would be
I know that's right.
Oh, honey, I was laying all there. It was I said he's a track star. He will be defending his championship.
I know that's right.
And I know he wants me to be there, but then, you know, because of work and it's a Monday and Tuesday, he said, take the days off. I said, there you go.
Right.
So when I told him I was coming, he was so happy.
Yeah.
And he kept saying, it's going to be wet, Mom. And he said, no, it's going to be very cold. Frostburg, Maryland. He said, it's going to be cold. Make sure you guys wear a lot of warm. So we carry a lot of warm clothing. That thing where you saw me, I wear how many pieces? We get there, it was like 30, 35. He was the first day on Monday, he was running around. We left on Sunday because we didn't want to drive Monday morning. We get there. It was about 38 degrees.
Ow.
Cold. Mama, I had on a shirt. Another shirt. Neck.
Real boss woman. And a hater. I know that's right.
I had on my LK jacket with a zip, and then I had on my black coat. I said I was prepared with my mask.
Be name dropping.
Honey, LK Reed's there. I wore his jacket. You know what I mean?
I know.
So I went when I got there. While we're sitting there, because we're on the bleachers outside, Mama, I know the rain started coming down. I look at my daughter. She looked at me. She said, we dress for the coat, but we bring umbrella. I got that. The thing what I'm telling you, when you say cool, that was not fun.
Cool.
Funny, I walk cool and nobody business. And I told my daughter, I said, Abigail, we'll sit around there, we will flock out today. We sat there and we were so cold. I mean, after the game, the first game was really like the first day run, he won, took first place in the 200 and the 100. So it's like he redeemed, he's like maintained his championship.
Right.
But it was so cold. After the game, it took 30 minutes for my fingers to come back to itself.
It was all warm.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was. Second day, we jumped there to go for championship again. We jump out in the same warm clothing again. We low your career again. I said, I just call you on the side. I said, son, by the time you run the first game, we go home. No repeat the other day.
There's an echo. I don't know if it's your phone. Maybe the audio is on.
Is it better?
Yeah, now it's better.
So when he did after he did the relay, 100 relay, and the other 100, I said, you know what, Abigail, I go my job. With just calling you are coming, his schoolmates came and say, Jabez, man, we love your mom. She don't care who yelling. She be yelling. Folks,
you talk about LK Reeves. We need to bring another young man on, DeMarque Boo. Did we?
Yes. He reached out to me the other day.
Yeah, we need to bring him on. He just got a new line out there. Listen, I don't promote a lot of people when it comes to clothes. Y'all know that. But those tracksuit, I'm gonna get me a suit.
Yeah.
But we got to bring this young man on because he's talented and he's doing good things. So we've had him before. Yeah. And his stuff is really good. Like the bow tie and stuff, like really good. Yes.
But anyway, that's how we are. So
let's get back to the show.
Yeah. So I maintain my name. I am the champ's mother.
I know that's right.
It's a champ. We got 3 medals. I don't care what you say. I am celebratious. You hear me?
That good English.
Okay, everybody. We're in the month of May. This is our first show in the month of May. Of course, the month of May, we are going to be celebrating mothers everywhere.
Yeah.
This month of May, we're also going to be celebrating children's mental health. So talk a little bit about it, how important it is to pay attention to your children, the things that they're involved in, the signs that they're showing. You never know what they're going through, and make the sacrifices for them, talk to them, and get to know them. Absolutely. So we're glad that Agatha is back on. And of course, we have a very fine man here coming here on the show today.
Not on the phone, the man smart.
Very smart, fine.
He got letters at the
end of his name. You hear how I pronounce it? Very smart. Fine plus smart.
Fine and smart, right? Smart.
Very smart. He's here. This man is no joke. He has 3 big letters after his name.
Yeah.
It's a P and an H and a D. Ain't come from Dr. And you know what I'm talking about?
The real one. That I think your PhD, he worked for it.
He worked hard for that thing there, and that's small job there. But anyway, we're happy to have the author here. I'm going to bring him on now so we can talk about him. I beg you, I'm sure the man is spoken for. Don't text him. Mm-hmm.
No, they can text him through us.
You're texting through us.
There you go. Welcome.
Welcome, Lionel. Welcome. It's
hi, Agatha. Hi, Glendy. Thanks for having me. I've been listening to you talk, and you guys have me laughing so hard. Celebrity-licious,
That was English.
Smart. So don't forget the one. He's smart. That's fine. Smart.
Yeah. But I only got one question. Why are you busting my head?
Hello. We don't lie, yo.
You see how the man can wear black t-shirt with a face where you will see the face, the black will just uplift the face.
That's exactly the point.
Yeah, once you go black, you can't go back. So.
There you go. Hello. So welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. We're very excited to talk to you. Thanks to Agatha who said we need to bring this man on the show. We need to talk to him. So we're excited that you could come on. Want you to tell us as we start this interview, we want you to tell us to our audience, welcome to GeesBeeCee Women with Words. I say we can see all the love there. Look like some people that on their play, they know you, they love it, they're puppy. For the man, you ain't gonna try all your love there, you're sending you. But anyway, tell us a little bit, introduce yourself to us so that our audience who don't know who you are and we can get to know more about who Lionel Bernard PHD is.
That's a one hell of an introduction. But first off, I want to thank you, Glendy, as well as Agatha, for inviting me on your show, GB. And GeesBeeCee. I had never heard about this. I'm sorry, what?
GeesBeeCee.
GeesBeeCee. That's where it's at. GeesBeeCee. I'm loving the show so far. And I've only been on for about 10 minutes. I think I'm going to be back. But a bit about myself. I know the audience wants to know who I am, why am I here, and what am I going to talk about. As you said, Glendy, my name is Lionel Bernard. And my friends don't add the PhD.
Just say that. Please add the PhD there. I'm begging you. You work hard for that.
You got to be humble. You can't be running around telling people, you got PhD and all that. When you go give a job, then you can put a PhD title there. Okay. But so I'm many things. I'm an author. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm also a Liberian. I was born in Liberia, and I've written 5 books as an author. I have quite a few other things that I'm involved in, including playing golf. I'm an avid golfer, avid reader. I play a lot of basketball as well. I have a lot of friends that I get together with on Saturdays, usually here in Maryland, and we stay active. As a man, you have to stay active to be able to handle your responsibilities. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Professionally, I'm an IT executive. I work for a nonprofit in DC as a CIO, overseeing IT operations. And my background is in technology. So started off as a software engineer, and then move up the ranks and moved into management, and then eventually into executive. But writing has always been something I've been very, very passionate about. As I said earlier, I've written quite a few books, and I will talk about some of those books here today, as well as give our viewers some insight into how you can write your own book. What does it take to be an author and to express yourself using that medium? It's not as easy as you think, but it's not as hard as you think. There is a method to it.
Okay. I like how you just humbly introduce yourself, and you just kind of skip over the RT executive. Not everybody that RT executive about.
But you that man, not only is he an executive, the man is in the C-suite.
I heard it. Yes, you just don't want like that. But we want to hear. I mean, I know you're humble. We also want to hear, and we're extremely proud to be able to have an opportunity to speak with you, someone of your, the Liberian people, the old English always say, you're someone of your caliber, your category.
Caliber.
Yes, someone of your caliber.
50 caliber.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the title. We keep talking about PhD. Tell us, what do you have it in? Want to hear a little bit about your beginnings in Liberia, transitioning here, and then we can go into other things.
All right. Well, work backwards then, since you asked about the PhD. I guess you could say I'm a nerd, meaning that I've done plenty book, plenty to the point where I thought I would learn any book now. I mean, I'm just kidding. But I'm a lifelong learner, and I did my undergraduate studies in Michigan. I got a degree in computer science, and then I came to Maryland thereafter to go to school at Howard University, where I attained an MBA in finance. And then later on, I decided, hey, why not go get your PhD? Actually, my employer, they wanted to move me into management, so they paid for it, or most of it. My doctorate is in international management, and I did a lot of research on cloud computing, specifically how to manage cloud computing. And this is more for those who are, the technical practitioners out there. So essentially, I developed a risk model for evaluating cloud services. If you plan on, nowadays, a lot of companies can go online and, for a few bucks, they can subscribe to, HR software, or subscribe to accounting software, or some other social tool that they pay for on a monthly basis. So, I did a lot of research on the risk involved in that, including the fact that, if the company goes under, where's your information? Are you going to be able to get it back? Right. Is there a security risk in having someone else maintain your information where you have no control over? So all of these things I put together in my research, and that was the essence of my second book that I wrote, called the risk-based model for evaluating software as a service. So I'm not going to get into detail about what's in this first book, but there's a lot of math in it. There's a lot of technical stuff, and the model is being used by some companies as well. So I'm very proud of that achievement as far as getting that PhD. It wasn't easy. It was a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. I remember sleeping in my office, because, I would stop working at 5, rest till about 7, and then study, because I couldn't go home. I had kids at home, a lot of distraction there. So, most of my doctorate, the 3 or 4 years that I spent doing research was mainly at work or on the weekends, where I would just sort of barricade myself in. And it's not for everybody, those who've gone through the journey of furthering their education to the highest level will understand that it takes a lot of sacrifice. You have to be committed to it. So I was, but the two things that I knew that, that I had within me that would allow me to complete a doctorate was, number one, I love reading. I have a deep passion for reading since I was a very young kid in Liberia. And the second thing is I love to write. And essentially, if you're going forward, moving your education to the highest level, you're going to need those two tools. You're going to need to read a lot and write a lot. So, and that segues into my background in Liberia. As I said, I was born in Liberia, right there in Maternity Ward Hospital. I don't know if you guys remember Maternity Ward.
Of course,
Up there
of
near
course, in the bypass.
Yes, it's now the archive or the place where you go get birth certificate. It's not a hospital anymore. So that's where my beginnings were. I grew up in Cinco on 15th Street. I lived with my grandmother right there near the beach. I remember many days we were broke, so we had to we bought a wheelbarrow and went to the beach to tow sand to sell it to construction people. So it was a lot of fun childhood, swimming in the ocean, climbing trees, and to get coconut, playing marble, blade, playing all the tile, using Indian tube to swim in the ocean. That's what I remember about growing up in Liberia. This was normal days now, not nowadays.
Yes.
Very different society. And but anyhow, I finished high school pretty early.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Haywood. Well, first I went to Lutheran High School. Lutheran Elementary School, and then I went to Ivory Coast for a few years, where I learned how to speak French. I'm fluent in French as well. And then I came back to Liberia and finished high school at Haywood. One of my accomplishments is that I'm the youngest person, at least up to then, to ever take the national exam, the WIAC exam. I remember, I think I was 14 years old when I passed that exam. I was also the youngest person to graduate from a high school at the age of 15. And I'm still the youngest person to ever graduate from Haywood. The reason I've noticed, because I was there last year, I did the commencement speech, and the principal, Reverend Simpson, he said, "Oh, you're a bad guy when you were here. You always gave me a hard time. I used to beat you in your hand, but you get sense. You're very smart because you're the youngest person that graduated from here. So I forgive you for all your troubles you put me through.
Bad things, yeah.
So I give Reverend Simpson a hard time. So here was where I graduated from. I went to LU briefly, I think that was really, really not experience that just kind of went out the window, because it was all partying. That's all we did. The 6 months I was there was party at not LU. I'm sorry, Cuttington, not LU, Cuttington. Cuttington way out there in Swakoko, Bonkanti, and as a 15-year-old in college, it was crazy. It was nonstop partying. I think my GPA was like 0.7.
What year was that?
What's her name? I was there with what's her name? Maureen and them. Yeah.
You see, this is where I know you from. I kept saying I went to Cottonton. Yes. And I was there also. I was saying, I know this name, but I couldn't but don't tell the people about our secret. We have a very good society out there. Don't worry about it.
I'm a nada till I die.
Oh, there you go. You bleed black and gold, right?
Yes. So see, man. I had a lot of fun. So that you were on campus right there. We were all schoolmates. So I was there for 6 months, but it was an amazing 6 months.
It was a party 6 months.
Oh yeah, we party until we know how to party. Way in the night, going to pizzas across the street.
The roof was on fire.
Oh, pleasure holding my foot.
I would not let it go.
No, you're not crazy. It's like in the morning, we in the club. Instead of going to class on a Tuesday.
You don't have to tell me. I know all about what y'all.
The thing about the club, what he talking about, in the nighttime. You think that's not a cool club, exactly. A swing shack.
Exactly.
But by 3 times, you even notice it. But that was our spot. We didn't care.
At night, it was jumping, right?
Oh yeah, it didn't. People from Banga used to come to that place. I mean, it was So that was my initiation into adulthood. Was Cuttington. A lot of fun. And then they had the riots there. So I had to leave. That was another
Yes.
crazy incident.
Oh.
But if they didn't have that, I probably would have graduated from cutting down with like a 1.1 GPA.
Well, in all fairness, I went to Cotton and I was not into much of the parties, but I did party. But I did not have 1.1 GPA to go Boston.
Yeah.
But I have a picture. I have a picture of the copy of the RICS thing, a RICS assessment framework for evaluating software. Well, I'll let Agatha start the software part because me and now inside the RT business. So now let's start asking the RT job question before we go into the book aspect.
I really don't have any questions. I'm impressed because I mean, for listening to you and hearing how much work you've put into becoming who you are is extremely impressive. But we don't want to bore people with work stuff. I'm sure people are more interested in the other books that you write, and we're going to jump right into that. So let's. But before we do that, you said something that I thought was profound, and I want to ask you a couple of questions about that, if you don't mind. You said while you were pursuing your PhD, many days and nights spent at the office because you were holding a full-time job, right? And you were also studying. Now, someone was holding down the fort at home because you said there were some kids at home that may or may not have been a little bit of a distraction. So tell us about that person that's at home that was holding the fort down, because I think we need to recognize that person as well. Don't you think?
Yes, indeed. My dear wife, Cleo, she's the mother of our 4 kids. We've been married for 24 years now. So I'm giving away my age here a little bit. We have 4 sons. One just graduated from college, and he's working with the government. Second, who's in college, he's a freshman studying computer science. And then we have the twins who are like the torn in on my side. There, Glendy, when you were talking about your son, you're a champion mom. I'm not a champion dad yet, but I've got 2 kids who are aspiring to be like your son. They're very athletic. They play ice hockey.
Nice.
It's a very demanding sport, very expensive as well. But that's your passion.
For poor people.
Many days, someday I'll be eating sardine and bread.
Running behind them to make sure to make their meat. That's amazing.
Oh my God, it's incredible. There's 2 of them too, so it's double the cost and double the commitment.
Right.
They've been playing since they were 5 years old. So my wife and I, we share the parenting duty responsibilities as far as making sure they get to their activities and organizing them. It's a lot of work. But parenting in America is not easy. You definitely need 2 people. It's a 2-man job, or 2-person, not 2 men. Sorry, amazing. It's a 2-person job. It's not a 1-person job. Mainly because you don't have a village like you do in Liberia, where you've got an extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins that can help out. Every kid can have a nanny because of the low cost of that. But you're on your own. Yeah. So we're grateful that we're able to raise the kids. And one thing we emphasize in our home is education. That has to be a priority. Sports, that comes secondary, just so that they don't gain weight from all the junk food that they eat. So we kind of raise them to be first with cleanliness, because I have full boys and boys can be junky. Oh my God. I'm sure you know that, Glendy.
Yes.
So one of the things I emphasize with my kids is to make sure that they're clean, they're respectful, and also that they live a humble life, and they learn to appreciate what they are, and what they have, and who they are. Also, I try to impart sort of a sense of self-confidence in them, because the world that they're entering as young Black men is not always favorable to them in a lot of ways. One incident of that is a few years ago, my twins, who were really, really good at what they do. One plays goalie in hockey, and the other one plays forward. And they were playing a team. I think it was right before COVID. One of the other players was all white team. As you know, hockey is all white sport. Yep. And one of the other kids on the team started calling them the N-word, and it really got out of hand. Luckily, all the games are videotaped. So, the issue was raised. We looked at the camera, confirmed it. Even the entire team was chanting racist monkey sounds.
Wow.
It was a big deal. So anyhow, we filed a complaint with the Youth Hockey Association of America, and it really blew up to the point where a lot of people got fired in that specific club. The NHL reached out to my kids, interviewed them, coaches from around the country. So it gave them a sense of validation that there are people that are supporting them, and it also gave them a taste of what they can expect in the greater society,
in the real world.
Yes, in the real world, and I think they're prepared for that now. That is not all sugar and cookies. Not everybody that smiles at you or shakes your hand or compliments you is a friend.
Right.
So you have to be mindful of that. Now not be on your guard, but also be respectful. All situations.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So just make sure you tell those boys that they got aunties that don't take no mess, and we know people in very high places and very low places. So we got their backs. Should they ever need to holler, we here.
We're here for them. We're here for them. I want to acknowledge some very jealous people on this field here for Cuttington business. Christina is very jealous. She called my most important school, Grona School.
But she
Michael Pat Moya talking about Cuttington. You don't be jealous. They're not
jealous, man. They just
jealous of our good school. They kind of jumping why you ain't never had it. Y'all used to go to bed 7 p.m. Why we still outside?
Look
Don't worry about us. All right, let's jump into this book. The first book we want to talk about, the mean book with all the nitty-gritty inside.
Yes.
Take a minute. Red Palm Oil Love.
Is it red palm oil or that red palm oil? It depends.
Okay. Well, you can pronounce it if you want to say red, if you want to say red, if you want to be
Red Palm Oil Love.
If you want to be serious and say red. But the title of the book is Red Palm Oil Love. And I guess one of the biggest questions I always get about this book is, why is it called Red Palm Oil Love? Yes. So it's a very simple answer. You've heard the phrase John Palmer waits on John Rice.
Yes.
Right. And what that phrase really means is that what sometimes you're gonna get you're gonna get put to a disadvantage by your own circumstances or your own doing. So it's the title of the book is a play on that phrase, Red Palm. John Palmer waits on John Rice. And what it means is that, well, first let me get into a bit about the character. The main character in this book her name is Darlene Quebec, and she is a sex worker. That's her profession.
She prostitute.
She's a sex worker.
She's a sex worker.
One of Marie She's a street gal. Yeah, you gotta be respectful of her,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because when you go to the office, you're selling your time. But some people sell their bodies,
Absolutely.
So all of us are kind of hoes in that way. We're selling our hourly, our bodies by the hour. So anyway, so as a sex worker, there's this sort of lingo amongst that culture, subculture that you should not love a man or your client. You should never fall in love with your client. Instead, you should pretend to love them. So the whole idea of Red Palm love is superficial love. It's pretentious love. It's love that that you transactional, so to speak, that you got to pay for. Real love is, for example, you love your kids, right? You love your mom, you love your dad, you love your friends. Some people love their sports team even more than their family. Some people love their country. So those are real, tangible love. Those are things that are genuine. But red palm of love is a phrase that I came up with to mean pretentious love, such as the kind that you would expect from giving someone money for companionship or for sex. So it's not real love; it's fake love.
Interesting.
So that's where the title comes from. It means fake love, red palm of love.
Okay.
See,
So tell us a little bit about Kebe.
All right, so Darling Kevin. First of all, let me tell the viewers why I wrote this book.
Okay.
This is my third book, and usually, when my first book, we'll talk about that a little bit later, was called Bag of Lies, and yes, this is one of probably my best book. I put a lot of writing skill into it. It's about 200 pages. And I will talk about it later, but this was the first book I wrote. And then my second book was my doctorate dissertation, which I published into a book format that you can buy both of these on Amazon. So one of the things I try to do with all of my books is that I try to tackle a subject that's going to challenge me as an author. It's like I'm looking for something that not mundane or mainstream, something that's going to, make me, gather all of my creativity and put that into my book. So with my first book, I created the main character is a white person, but a lot of the setting and the story, it's based in he's living in sort of a black world. And I'll get into that a little bit more. The second book, which is my doctorate thesis, obviously there's a lot of math, very technical book. But for this third book, what happened is I was reading an article, I think it was back in 2010 or 2011, on Liberian Observer Online, which is an online newspaper in Liberia. And the article was about she was 15 now, and the journalist was interviewing her, and she was talking about things that she had experienced in her life. And she said that when she was 11 years old, she got raped there in Liberia, and she went to the police to report it, and the police said she had to pay $12 US dollars to file the case. And she didn't have the money, but that experience traumatized her, and it led her to a life of prostitution. And so she was into drugs, and so the journalists were interviewing her, and I was reading this story and thinking, wow, this is a very tragic story. This young woman could offer Liberia so much if these things hadn't happened to her and justice did not prevail in this case. And I kept warning, all things being equal, is she going to have kids someday? Is she going to get married? Is she going to have a normal life? And sadly, that was not the case. She's probably dead by now, because this was 2010, and she was already in dire straits, living on the streets and doing drugs and selling her body. And the article mentioned a phrase that's used amongst the sex workers in Liberia. Is called cutting jopu. And it means that, women who sell their bodies in these entertainment centers for something as low as $1. You see, so that article really, really struck me as, wow, this is a very tragic thing to happen to a person, anybody for that matter. So that was the first basis for creating Red Palm of Love. The second thing that happened is that a few months later, so this idea stuck in my head. I need to write something about this. The second thing is that I was reading an article about a review of a play called Carmen. It's an opera. It's a Spanish opera, and it's a very tragic opera. And what it is about a Spanish soldier. It's set all of 100 years ago. As you know, opera is something that people sing. Right. They don't talk. There's no dialogue. The dialogue is singing, not talking. So the story is about this young lady named Carmen and this Spanish soldier that falls in love with her, and she manipulates him into doing a robbery. And while the robbery is going on, he's caught. He's put in jail, but he escapes later on, and he comes back and seeks her out. And he's enamored with her. He's obsessed with this Carmen lady. She's a very beautiful Spanish lady. and she leads it into a life of criminal activity. Him and her friends. So anyway, long story short, eventually Carmen gets tired of him, this soldier, and leaves him for a bullfighter. Right?
Wow.
I mean, this is Spain now. She leaves him.
Right, right.
She not find you, man. He's a
Of course.
bullfighter. He's an athlete. You know, most of Spaniards, bullfighters are like Jordans. These are the top of the. So anyway, Carmen leaves this soldier for this bullfighter, and he goes crazy, and he finds her and he kills her. So that's how the story ends. So these two things, as far as this lady in Liberia,
right,
going through this tragic situation, and I watched the video of Carmen. So all of that metastasized into, okay, I need to put this into a story form that reflects the reality of what's happening in Liberia. So Darling Kebe is the main character in the story. She grew up in the middle of the Civil War in Liberia, in the refugee camps in Guinea, and she doesn't know who her father is, but her mother is remarried to someone else, and something happens to her when she's 17 that forces her to run away from home. I'm not going to tell the readers, I'm sorry, the audience, what happens, but it's something very tragic that causes her to leave her home and run away, and her mom is wondering, why are you running away? So she becomes disenfranchised from her mother, and she's living on the streets. But what's going for her is that she's very beautiful, she's very attractive, so she gets into a lifestyle of prostitution in Liberia, which is the thing to do since she doesn't have any skills or any opportunities. But what she has going for her is that she becomes a high-end prostitute there in Liberia, and I talked to a lot of people that are there, and to get some insight into the culture. And what I found out is that in Liberia, specifically, the high-end prostitutes are usually very young, and they're called santans. They didn't have a name for them. They have santans, and then they have the Wayos, and then they have the Joe, Hopo Joe, whatever you call them. So there's a class system.
Hapa
Yes, there's a class system within that culture, that sex working culture, and she's at the very top. And she's very seductive, very manipulative. She's also very smart. But besides, what she realizes is that this work that she's doing is not sustainable long term. So she's very ambitious. She's going to school to become an accountant, studying accounting. Rather, she was able to take the money that she's earned and build her house.
Wow!
And she has a 2-bedroom house in Oro. She has a roommate who cooks, and sells food. But she just has her there as sort of a friend to keep an eye on her house. She's also trying to build another house. But so the book talks about her interactions with some of her clients. Some of them are very wealthy people. They're very influential people, and she's able to manipulate all of them. But something very tragic happens to her. I'm not going to tell the reader, the viewer as well, and that forces her to reassess who she is. She also runs into someone who falls head over heels in love with her. And she doesn't know how to deal with that. So that's where the first part of the story, the first
interesting.
The first story. There's a lot of sex in this book. This is a sex worker, so it's very graphic. It's not for kids. It's a very graphic sex. It's very. One of the other things I did was to challenge. This was a very hard book to write because most authors write. So, for example, from a male perspective. It's very rare to see a male write as a female,
right?
And that was a challenge. That was the reason why I tackled this project, was because it challenged me to understand the female mind. So I had to do a lot of research. I had to figure out how women talk to each other. What are their, how they interacted with each other. What are some of their subtle cues that they give when they're socializing. How do they interact with men? So I had to, because when you're writing, you have to get from the perspective of the character. Right. So I had to be authentic as far as all of the things that Darling says and does would be things that a woman would say and do. Right. So I spent a lot of time making sure the character was authentic and was relatable. So it comes across in the book. The second thing I try to do is I realized that if everybody spoke proper English, then the book wouldn't be authentic.
Right.
So a lot of the dialogue is in Liberian colloquy, and that's on purpose.
Okay, I saw that.
Yes, and I was inspired to do that by some other writers like Walter Mosley. You know, Devil in the Blue Dress. He uses Black American slang in his books. He was one of the first people to do that. You know, and so I was inspired by that, and I realized that has never been done by Liberian writers before. Baiti Moore, the Murder in the Cassava Patch. That's all in proper English. Right. You know, a lot of the other Helen Cooper, The House on Sugar Beach. All those books are in proper English.
Yeah.
Now, Red Palm of Love is in proper English, but a lot of dialogue. And once you read the book, you understand why it had to be that way. So it's a very, very fascinating look at a young woman, you know, interacting with all of these challenges that she's facing and trying to get, you know, trying to retain her self-esteem. And there's a very powerful scene in the book where, you know, she's reflecting on how, you know, how the moment when she changed, it became this very savvy, from the naive woman into a woman who's very, very smart, very street savvy. And there's a scene where she's in a hospital. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but there's something that happens in the hospital that transformed her completely and, you know, set her in the path that she finds herself going forward. So, but the book is also a reflection of, you know, there's sub teams in the book as far as the healthcare system in Liberia, the education system. There's a scene where her teacher tries to hit on her in exchange for grades, and the way she deals with him is absolutely, you know, is very powerful. The way she deals with him in that scene where she's sitting in his office and he's trying to get her to sleep with him in exchange for grades, and she says things to him and deals with him as very, very savvy and shows that the kind of person she is. So I urge readers to read this book. You'll learn a lot from it. It's not just a book about sex working, and there's a lot of underlying themes in there that you know, I think you'll find interesting.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I'm not done reading, but I actually got to purchase the book to be able to read it, and I've been reading it, and it's like, it's very intriguing because, like you said, there are so many messages. It's like this book is, the setting is in the heart of Monrovia, or and also you're bringing together so many different worlds, like before the war, during the war, after the war. It's almost like interjecting that. One of the things that stood out to me is like her parents could not control her. They couldn't stop her from doing what she wanted to do because there was no caveat to, if you stay home, you're going to get everything you need. So there was a need for her to be able to go there. I would hope that people who are watching, actually just share it. It's on Amazon. It's less than $15. Please go, because I think this book, you can also gift it if you have young daughters or even sons. You can gift it to them, because the book, not only, like you said, it's very, very sexual indeed. And me being a virgin reading it was a lot for me.
I knew it was going to come out somewhere somehow.
But it's an amazing, amazing book. And when you, in your mindset, when you're writing this book, and like, I want you to talk a little bit about how, I mean, yes, you're a nerd. We get that. We understand that you're a set up nerd. No joke. It's like, how do you get to the place where you decide that you want to be? And even me, who wrote a book before, the way you're saying, I want to learn from you, because you're saying there are so many reasons why people decide to write a book. I want you to explain when you decide to write a book, because I'm sure you took a lot of time. It's like, what do you put into it? How do you get there to make sure that this book comes out the way you plan it to be?
Yeah, that's that. You know, a lot of people want to write books. You know, a lot of people want to do things, but you know, the key ingredient there is to make the effort. So what I would tell anyone who's looking to write a book, first of all, there's a difference between being an author and being a writer. Mm-hmm. When you're a writer, you write you might write a play, you might write a blog, You might write an article. So, but an author, being an author is a lot more comprehensive. You have to produce a body of work, a full body of work, a full story, autobiography, or something, something of non-fictional that your audience can become absorbed in. So the first step in that journey to be an author, to write your book, is to answer at least these four questions. And the first question is, who am I? And that's a very profound, self-reflection exercise. But what it does, the outcome of that is, you're asking yourself, am I truly an author? Or am I a writer? Do I have the capability, the passion, and the commitment to do this? You see, do I have the background? So it's not something you just jump in. It's kind of like like your son is a runner. If you say you want to be a runner, you can just, or track and field star. You don't just start. You got to practice. You got to know if you have the ability to do it. Then you have to, once you cross that bridge, and you've answered that question, and you know that you are prepared to write this book. And there's also the issue of confidence. One of the things I struggled with early, when I was very young, I knew I wanted to be a writer, mainly because, I was kind of an introvert as a child. I mean, I had a lot of friends, but I was kind of a quiet kid. But one of the things that I was also very curious. So one of the things that I did was I was drawn to reading. My grandmother, Daniela Tucker, bless her soul, had a encyclopedia set, and I went through the whole thing because there was no one I could ask questions to. So I decided, well, let me read and find the answers. So I did a lot of reading. Sherlock Holmes I was fascinated by. Read all of the Sherlock Holmes books, the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew mystery, all that stuff. I was pretty deep into all that reading as a kid. And what I began to realize early on is that I like the way these authors express themselves. And this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to express myself that way. Some people find expressing themselves in running, like your son does. Some people express themselves through cooking. They love cooking, and that's how they express themselves. Some people express themselves through different means, through working. People work themselves to death. But I knew very early on that I wanted to be able to express myself through writing because I was enamored with what I read, how those authors were able to express themselves so eloquently and, capture a story, capture a setting, a time and place, and kind of take you there. So this is what I wanted to do. So that's why you have to ask yourselves, who are you? Are you really a writer? And the next thing is to ask yourself is, what are you going to write? The rule of thumb is you want to write about something that you know, something that you're expert on. So if you're trying to think of an example. If you're a medical, say you're a nurse, and you want to write a book about knitting, crochet, and you don't know anything about that, you've got to do a lot of research so that whatever you write, the reader can see the genuine authenticity in your writing. So that how is very important. I'm sorry, the what question has to be answered. The third question is how. How are you going to write? Writing is really, really hard. A lot of people find it boring. It's tedious. It takes commitment. So you got to teach yourself the art of writing as to answer that third question. And it takes time because if you write junk, people are not going to read it or they're going to criticize you. So you got to make sure that whatever you put out there, if you have a story to tell, you got to know how to craft a story. The story has to have a plot, has to have a protagonist, an antagonist. It has got to have a setting. You got to know some of the tricks of the trade. And one of the things I've learned along my way is something called evocation. Have you ever read a book where you can't put it down? You pick it up, you start reading, and it just sucks you in, and you can't stop reading because it's so intriguing. It's by design, and it's called evocation. There's a way to do that. So you got to know how to do those things. You got to know how to set your setting. You got to minimize the number of words. Don't use big words in your writing. You got to use words that are concise and crisp because you're writing for someone to read, not for a book report for your professor. So those are some of the things that you got to answer: who you are, what it is that you want to write about. How are you going to write? And I think the last question is do you have the and you have to ask yourself, are you willing to commit yourself to doing it? So those are some of my advice for writing a book. It's a process, and you got to spend at least the exact same amount of time every day committed to writing a book, because you're not going to finish. Right, the enemy of the author is procrastination.
Yep.
Okay. So are there two books with the Palm Wine Love? There's a Palm Wine Love. That's another book that I want us to talk a little bit, but I want to first send shout out to Faustina. She actually just purchased one of the books. Thank you, Faustina. I shared the link. Let me tell you, my people, if you're virgin like me, the book,
go. You will learn something in there. You will learn something.
Things. You will learn some good words.
Look at
I get $15. You go buy the book. The book. I'll be reading it and drinking my lip. Apetache. Okay, let's talk about Palm Wine Love.
Yes, indeed. This book will help your bedroom life.
There you go.
Yes, indeed.
You got it. Palm Wine Love.
All right. So Palm Wine Love is the second book in the series. I call it the Palm Wine series. The Palm series, rather. So the first book was Red Palm Wine Love, and this book is Palm Wine Love. So this book continues the story of Darling Kebet. As I mentioned earlier, she's the main character. She's a sex worker. So in the second book, the story continues. And this book, man, this was one of the hardest books I've ever written. It was hard because, one of the things that people don't understand is that when you're writing a book, it's almost like a form of meditation. You have to go into the story and become all of the characters. It's almost like you're doing a monologue on stage. So it's very, very mentally draining and demanding. But also you have to go into the same emotional state as your character. So at the very end of this book, there's a scene that is so powerful that I had to close my laptop and stop myself from shedding tears. I mean, it was that deep. So I think the reader will connect with that as well. Yes. So the second book, Darling, I'll tell the reader, the audience a bit about some things that happen in the second book. So in the second book, in the first book, Darling, at the end, she finds out that her mom is sick. Her mom has cancer, throat cancer, thyroid cancer. Again, she can't seek medical help in Liberia because healthcare services are pretty limited in that country. So she was able to manipulate someone and get enough money, one of her clients, and she sends her mom to Nigeria. So most of this second book takes place in Nigeria. And that's the second reason why this book was so hard. I've never been to Nigeria. So I had to do a lot of research on Nigeria, on the dialogue. You'll notice a lot of the dialogue in the book amongst the Nigerian is in Nigerian colloquial. And I had to figure that out. That was very, very tough to do. So Darling goes to Nigeria. Her mom is living with she has two stepbrothers, and one of them is a construction worker in Nigeria. And her mom is living with her brother while she's going through her chemotherapy and her cancer treatment. So Darling, things are settled in Liberia. She's got a little bit of money. She started building her house, her second house that she wants to rent out to generate some revenue. So she said, okay, let me go see my mom. So she goes to Nigeria to visit her stepbrother and his wife. They have two kids. So, it's a really family. The beginning of the book is very family friendly. She's getting to know she's never been to Nigeria either. She's fascinated with how big the place is, the traffic. So, this book is very, very funny as well in the beginning, as far as her leaving the airport and getting to their house there. She meets her mom. She meets her sister-in-law and her cousin, her niece and her nephew. So she's in a happy place, and then her sister-in-law's brother, who owns this big construction company, is a very wealthy guy. He falls in love with Darling. I mean, she's got it like that. He's a Nigerian guy. He's an old guy, young guy.
They're all guy.
Yes. So that whole the whole book takes place in Nigeria. And, you know, she's invited to this fancy party, you know, with rich Nigerian people there. And, you know, she's getting the taste of the life. And she's like, wow, Liberia is nothing like this. But she runs into some other workers that are in the industry in Liberia, in the sex working industry. And so she, you know, she kind of interacts with them and learns a little bit about how they do things there. So that's another thing I threw into the book. But this second book, the reason why it's called Palm Wine Love is because at this, she goes to this big party, and you know, and her stepbrother brings her palm wine to drink, and she, you know, when she tastes it, she keeps drinking. You know, palm wine. If you drink palm wine, you can't stop drinking it, especially the good one. So she gets drunk and she does some crazy things at the party, but she also has a moment where she does a lot of self-reflection, and she realizes how damaged she is inside from some of the trauma that. So it's a very, she goes from a very high place, you know, having fun, to suddenly she dips, and she has this moment where she's, you know, she breaks down and starts crying because, you know, the trauma sort of comes back from her childhood. So all of that, you know, is a very intriguing book. But the book, you know, most of it takes place in Nigeria. There's something tragic that happens at the very end that brings everything full circle. And that's why I shut down my laptop at the last scene in the book, where she comes, is, you know, as a human being, there's a point in your life where reality and your perception of yourself and the reality of yourself become one, and you understand completely who you are without any kind of you know, doubt or assumptions about what you think you are. So I think that she faced the reality of who she is at the very end, and it's a very tragic ending. Very.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Don't
give too much away now.
So it was a very hard book to write, very hard. But I'm sure the audience will enjoy reading it, because I put a lot of creativity in this book. A lot of creativity, a lot of dialogue. There are places where it's so funny. Even when I read it now, you know, I start laughing out loud because it's so funny. You know, but you know, when you're writing, you're not thinking about all those things. You're so focused on making sure that whoever reads it. One of the things that I'll also do is that when I finish writing a book, I will print it out in print format. I will take it to, you know, FedEx, Kinko's, and print it out and read it on the train or at a restaurant or somewhere, because I want to feel what the audience or the reader is feeling when they're reading the book. Right. You know, when you're writing it, you're just trying to get words on the page. Yes. But I want to feel exactly the same. I want to know how the audience is feeling. So that's part of my editing process. I will do that, and I will change a lot of things to make it more concise and direct. So when you read it, it just hits you immediately. Like, oh, I get it. And it also creates evocation where it brings the reader deeper into the book. But yeah, so this is another tip. If you want to be an author, make sure you do a reader perspective reading to see how people are going to react when they read your book.
We have to have you come back later on so we can talk more about that. You have a lot of insight. I am not a writer. I'm not an author, but I do like to write. I don't like to share what I write with anyone, but I know Glendy has put out a book or two, right? Mm-hmm. So we definitely can get some insights from you. You seem to have mastered this to a certain degree. So it's interesting to hear your perspective on it.
And like you said, that's a good point, Agatha. It's like, as I'm listening to you, there are phases that I went through that I didn't know how to explain. Yes. And to hear it's like, most of the time when I said, so I like poetry. So one of the book that I wrote, in the heart of my mind, is almost like you sit there and you're processing stuff. So when I'm hearing you saying it, and then it's like I went around with my different the book, people call it manuscript. When I'm driving, I'm going through it. And another thing that's difficult is being able to edit your own writing. So it's so hard to do, because sometimes you're not able to catch it. You ask other people to read it for you. You don't want to share it, but it's hard. Yeah. But it's like, when I'm hearing you, you're so genuine in what you're doing, that I can attest that you're truly an author, because the things that I did, and I was just doing it with no experience. just felt that I needed to write my life story in. I'm supposed to be doing 9 books. I got the second one ready, but haven't published yet. But it's like you have confirmed those things that people do. So it's like anybody can do it, but to put all that you've put into it is truly amazing. And like we say again, I've shared the Pound One Love, and one of the messages in the Pound One Love is don't get too drunk and forget about yourself. But when you forget about yourself, there's
But
some
the whole point of getting drunk now, so you can forget about yourself. So, yeah, man, for us drunkards, y'all lead out on me.
Yes, but the books, they're out on Amazon. I've shared them. They please go and patronize. Definitely, we will have Lionel come back. And once you come here, this platform is just as much as it is for you as it is for us.
Yes.
We want to continue to share your work. We're extremely proud of you. Congratulations to you and your family. My Scorpion brother, we got to take you into that Cottington chat.
Yeah, boy.
We got to make sure once a Scorpion, always a Scorpion. And I used to be for a Nighter before, so that's why you are my club brother. But it's amazing that the work you've done, and even with your IT professional, you're telling me that you have a PhD in management. You know how many books you're reading there?
International.
Not management. That's too much book to read. They once said that George Fonderson, they were teaching me to early, I ran away from it. But anyway, as we it's been an hour and we didn't even realize it, because this has been an interesting, is that there are good people out there, Agatha, well-learned people.
Restate that. There are good, educated Liberians out there.
Yes.
So I gotta, every time we do this, Lionel, I gotta put my little twist on the political scene. There are educated Liberians that can contribute to the rebuilding of Liberia. Yes. And it doesn't have to be within the government. I want to always remind people, especially people younger than us, right? We have such vast knowledge, a wealth of knowledge of Liberians out there doing great things all over the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure Lionel will be happy to come to LU or Haywood or Cottington or Cathedral High School or any school and just talk to our young people. It doesn't have to be in government for you to make a difference in Liberia. I just had to throw this out there. But yeah, so proud of you, Lionel. Thank you for joining us. Your book still go up because people usually watch this show after the fact. But we want them to go out to Amazon. Both books are on Amazon, but all of your other books, if they're interested in the professional side, are also available on Amazon. So someone asked, how could they get an autographed copy if they wanted one of your book? How can we make that possible?
Oh, if you're in Maryland, DC, or Virginia, just reach out to me. I'm trying to think, how do you get an autograph? I guess you have to, you have to call me, and then I'll have to meet you or sign the book somewhere. But one of my biggest problems is that I don't promote my work.
You see, that's where I come in. You need to hire me to do that. We'll be selling books. We'll be selling books.
Yes, my job is to create the story and put it out there, and if the reader finds it interesting, they'll gravitate towards it. So, but I'm not really. But as far as signing the book, hit me up. I'll sign it. I mean,
so may I provide you a suggestion?
Yes, absolutely.
Get a few copies yourself from Amazon.
Okay.
Have it shipped to you, right? And
yes,
when
you ready?
You, huh? When
somebody, we're stumbling over. Somebody say, I got ready for another book launch. We can do that. I mean, you have 5 books.
It gotta be a launch.
If you haven't had a launch, we're ready to launch it for you here.
Yeah, We ain't even
There
gotta
you
do
go.
all of
I'll
that.
be
We
the
can
only help
just
I can
promote
get,
it.
so no problem.
Yeah, we can just promote. But on a serious note, just get you a couple of copies, have it shipped to your house. And then people can just message you and say, hey, can you autograph this for my sister? And you have it right there. Just sign it to who? Put it in the mail and directly to them.
Very good idea.
So that's
I'll
a way
definitely
to
do that.
Yeah. Always have a Yep.
Sorry, go ahead. One thing I'll say is that on the 20th, I've been invited to a program in Philadelphia. So I just ordered a few copies of my books.
And
I'll be taking it up there. I'll be signing it. And I'm getting an award for writing from a group of people up there in Philly on the 20th. So, but I'll take your advice. I will get some copies at home. And if you need to reach to get me to autograph your book, or want to talk about writing, how you can write your own book, just DM me on Facebook, and I'll give you more than you can wish for as far as insight into writing. And one thing I also say is I'm working on my 6th book.
Okay.
It's a very, very complex book. It's called The Shamer. It's set about 150 years from now, but it's not set in Liberia. It's set in the U.S., and the country has broken up into 3 religious groups. So that's all I'll say from it. It's a very powerful book.
Oh dear.
And it's called The Shamer. SHAMBR. And one of the reasons it's called The Shamer is because one of the religious groups has a ceremony where if you break their religious rules, they put you to this shaming ceremony. So it's kind of like a play on what's going on now. With the
like the
dynamics
Amish people when they shun you.
It's way worse than that. way. So that's my new project. Hopefully it'll be done by the end of the year. And I've got a few other books in the works. But this is my life. Besides being a parent and a basketball player, golfer, IT executive, husband, and all that, just writing is where it's at for me. So, but thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lionel. Yes. This is a testimony of how humble you are, because there's some people who may have your caliber of education that we're not even able to easily access. And getting to you was really easy. To Agatha, even when I sent you a text message, you responded. There's some people who got PH error, and I can't even get to them.
No.
Brother.
And that PhD that they earn, it's PhD that was given to them.
People teach you all kind of people. Yeah, they may get PhD in international big book nerd. We're getting on it today. I'll be giving people but we'll and like you said, if you want to order the books that Agatha has suggested, I also live in the same vicinity that you do. I don't mind also making sure to get some the books out there. We want to promote you. This is what we do here. More so if you autograph the book, you got 20, you say, hey Glendy, and I have these books and you help me get it out to people, we wouldn't mind. We have an international book launcher here who is capable of doing all of those things. So we're here to support you and to promote everything you do. We're proud of you. Thank you, Lionel, for being here today.
Thank you very much. Glendy and Agatha. Appreciate it.
All right.
Hope to see you guys soon.
Yes, you will.
Happy reading.
All right. Thank you. All righty, boy. Look, the man no book.
That not only a book, he can write.
He can write.
He educated. He's well spoken.
Yes. He's a family man. Supportive.
All of that. That's the lesson. When I say there are good things about Liberia and Liberians, he's the picture perfect person to put on a pedestal.
Yes. Agatha, please, let's work on that project. That's 5 books that we can do something about. Hi.
Hello. You come and get me work again.
Yes, man. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, I am.
And how humble he is.
Listening to the two of you, I have written a couple of pieces that I'm just not comfortable letting anybody read. You know what I mean? So anybody that can put that.
But you can always look. I want to talk about my book that's coming up. There's actually an anonymous true story in it by a woman who doesn't want to be known. And so she's in it. So you can always do it that way.
I can be a ghost writer. Yes.
Yes, a ghost writer. So like that's what she
Absolutely.
is. So
Absolutely.
but it's the man is smart.
Yes.
Yes, so proud of him and her. 24 years. And you see what Cotton does to people.
Oh, you can move from the way of cutting on business. Let me find my matey. Get on my face, man. Let me talk my English. Y'all see, I can't even find a thing on my desk.
Mom, man, court. What is mom?
I didn't even know what place she asked. You know, let me find.
I got her right here. Always got her right
you found one. Can't talk about cutting down business. Leave it with me.
Everybody said, do not be my maid courts. Do not be a high schooler for a man. Whenever he's hot, he comes to you to cool him off. And I mean, brother,
okay. Mommy, we're not small woman.
No, mommy, we're not playing, man. So you who want to go be expert for man? When I be expert for
you wanna be a schooler, yeah.
I be expert for everybody. But on a serious note, I mean, I was reading those books there.
I do have read Paramount Love, and I started reading it.
Yeah.
But I do need to go back and finish it. Very interesting book.
So we want you all to have a pleasant weekend. Yeah. There's a guest coming on next week. Surprise. We're going to be showing him as a surprise that he will be coming to us all the way from wherever he comes from.
Yeah, so we can see them here.
Yeah, that's a brother, serious brother. Now me and a Kata brother coming on.
Our brother.
Our brother, mama. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. Thank you for always. Go order the book. It's just $15. Let's like I gotta say. Let's pick up on the sales. Okay.
Yes.
So let's support him. He's a good brother. He's doing really well. Written 5 books. We want to be able to see what we can do to promote him. All right.
We need to talk about the books later because he said there are three.
Mama.
But that's what you know.
That book.
It's juicy. I know.
Something.
Yeah, he's 3 ranks.
Y'all yell me. You better go get that book. Especially the pound one love. Pound one love. You yourself you going to look for your own pound one. I tell you, no joke.
Look.
Okay, folks, we'll see you next week, Thursday.